All right, hey, what's up, guys? It's Jamie. I am off today. I'm just doing a quick video before I run around and do all my errands. I have a lot of stuff to do, I'm sure. I don't know about you, but I have a ton of things to do on my days off. They're usually not like I just rest and relaxation. I have to okay, I got to go here. I got to get this done. I'm doing got a guy coming. You can see this barricade I put up here for our German Shepherds. I threw up this cheap wooden fence. I bought it at Home Depot. I bought a bunch of panels just to try dogs from escaping. They're escape artists. And I have this one neighbor who, for whatever reason, he's just not a happy person, and he just doesn't like dogs, I guess. So whenever the dogs escape, which is once in a while, they seem to go to his house. It's almost like they know it, and he'll call animal control. And they're good dogs, so the animal control actually is she knows the dog. She knows they're not a threat. And the guy was saying that they bark excessively, and all the neighbors said that's not the case. So I don't have to worry about that, but you can't let the dogs escape, over and over again. You got to get a fine. So today I'm going to solve that problem and have a professional come in who's going to put a vinyl gate so I can, pull, big enough where I can pull something back there, to cut trees down. Like if I had to bring a big truck or car to dump landscape stuff, and I just want to have a big gate. I don't know what you call it, like just a big swinging gate, and then some panels going all the way down the property. So I could probably do it, but I just don't have the time. And I found someone who's pretty good that does some other work for us that I think will give us a good deal. So anyway, that being said, I don't really have much to say about stocks, options, or cryptocurrencies. I do want to say that I'm holding my positions. With Volta, I might add more. I'm looking for Google, and I don't own any Twitter because that's a couple people asked me. I think it's cool that Elon is buying the company. He seems to be pretty successful overall, so we'll see what happens, but I'm not getting involved in that. I did buy some more Stella Lumens XLM. I did buy some Cardano. I did buy some Matic yesterday, but nothing crazy. Less than $500. I still believe in Bitcoin. Bitcoin just got added with Fidelity. There's some information on Altcoin Daily over on their YouTube channel. Those guys offer some really good information under 15 minutes of facts, and they do their due diligence. So if you want to learn more about that, but Fidelity's adding Bitcoin to the portfolio, where if somebody wanted to add up to 20% that's investing in a freedom fund or 401k plan or whatever they're doing, you can add up to 20%, which I think is cool. I think that's going to help cryptocurrencies overall, as Fidelity is, the biggest or one of the biggest companies that offer investments into 401ks and stuff like that. I know I had one with my employer. I switched it over to Vanguard, but I think the Freedom Fund is what I had. So I do have a Roth IRA with them. I haven't checked. I'm going to check and see if it's already up there, or if I didn't get the facts if it's already happened or if it's going to happen. But it seems like it's definitely going to happen if it hasn't already. So that's what I got going on there. But I was talking to some younger people yesterday. I think it was a brother and sister, if I'm not mistaken. They were talking about real estate stuff. So over and over and over again, as we have different conversations, I would love to record some of these conversations if I could, about different people's ethnicities, religions, all these different cultures of people that have been here, for generations, other people that are new to the country. Different professionals, students, all different ages, and their mindset towards investing. And I always try to learn from people, and I try to assimilate something that someone is doing better than me, or maybe know something that I just didn't know, and I try to apply it to my process. So I thought it'd be good to share about an investment that I made, my first one in real estate, which was totally by accident. I don't want to talk too long about it. I try to keep these videos under 20 minutes. So I'm just going to share how this happened, okay? So my ex, her brother had purchased a property in New Bedford. It was a total rehab house, and it was in a rough neighborhood. He was pretty handy. And this was his first house. So he had a rehab loan with his mom's bank. She was like a bank manager. And he basically was going to rehab the house and fix it up for him and his son. He just had a little boy. Behind him, there was this garage. It was like a 15, 16 car garage, or it could be. And you could probably fit easily 14 cars. I think I usually had 14 or 15 cars in there after I bought it. But there was this cinder block garage behind him on a long driveway. It's kind of a weird property. You can look it up. It was 301 and 303 Court Street in New Bedford, Mass. So he said, hey, there's this property behind me. I know you flip cars. I used to flip a lot of cars on Craigslist back in the day when that was, more popular and easier to do. It's probably nearly impossible to do right now in the current market for the auto industry. But I used to do that pretty regularly. I had cars all over the place. So he goes, hey, why don't you, put them back there, see if you can buy the place. It's been on the market a long time. I'd rather have you own it than somebody else. So I said, okay. So me and a buddy looked at it because I used to do some stuff with him. And I didn't have the money. I had good, my credit was good. So I had just bought my first house at that time. This was around 2009. So I bought this house for $200,000, and I said, well, maybe I can buy this property too. So I went in, I made an offer. The guy was asking $100,000. It had been on the market for over a year, and it was quite a long time. And I offered him $65,000 plus he would pay the closing costs. So the realtor said, oh, that's a ridiculous offer. He's not going to accept it. Why would you do that? It's worth more. And I said, that's my offer. So he got back to me within a couple weeks, actually. And he said, hey, the seller will accept your offer. So I was excited. I was like, all right, cool. So I went to my girlfriend's mother, who was the bank manager, and I applied for a loan, and I got a commercial loan. It was, I had to come up with 25%. I put down $12,500. I didn't even have the $12,500 at the time. My buddy did. I think I put up like $2,000 or $3,000, and or maybe 3,000 or 4,000. I think he gave me 8,000, or right around that, $8,000 or $9,000. And I put the money down. My mortgage was $600 a month, plus I had electric and certain bills. So I had this property, and I started putting cars there. So it was much bigger than I needed. So I said, you know what? I'll take the front. I'll run out the back, because it was kind of like a long rectangle, and there was properties that there was enough space in the back where you could fit 8 to 10 cars, and in the front I could fit 3 or 4 cars, which was fine. So I rented out the back to some of the tenants who were there. I got new tenants, and I would get anywhere at the time from $50 to $100 a spot. Eventually that evolved into $100 to $150 a spot. And I had all array of tenants. I had some real bad ones. I had some real dramatic people. I had people that didn't pay. I had people that caused problems. I had neighbors that would complain. I mean, I had all kinds of challenges over the decade that I owned that property. Now, I ended up selling it because I was afraid. I sold it right when the pandemic happened. And I was afraid that it was going to be more of a problem, that the market was going to tank, and I was going to have 10 or 12 tenants that didn't pay me. And it really wasn't that much money looking back. I probably should have kept it, right? But we always say, like, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, whether we did or didn't do something. But, lessons learned. Evaluating the deal and the property and the asset. I bought my partner out for about $20,000. I didn't even have the money to buy him out. I actually let him keep $1,000 a month for a year and a half. So, he had taken the rent for the time that we owned it, and then he stopped taking rent. I just gave him the $1,000 every month until 18 months passed, and so he had $18,000 plus some money that he had gained from the property during the just the regular rents, because we were splitting the rent. We weren't banking it. We didn't know anything about what we do with this money. We're just like, hey, we're covering the rent. We got a free place to put cars, and we're making a couple, $300 or $400 each every month. So he probably netted after he got his 12.5 back, or not 12.5. He got his 7-8 grand back plus about another 20. So he did pretty good as far as that goes. He was happy. I kept it for over a decade. I probably averaged around $1,000 a month. Or maybe say $800 a month. And after I paid everything, taxes on the property, electric, insurance, things like that, cable. I had internet there. I had cameras up. I'd gained lots of things that people would leave there and got deported or arrested, or all kinds of stories I could tell you about that. But I'd sold jet skis, I'd sold a car that somebody left me, tools, just things that happened over the decade that just got left with me. So I think I probably made, just in rents and stuff, around $100,000, which isn't a lot, I guess, if you consider it for 10 years, right? That's 10 years, basically 10 grand a year. And then when I sold it, the property was almost paid for. And, I probably made another, because I had taken out a refinance, right? At one point, I took 70 grand out to do something else. And then I sold it right when the market was going crazy, not in a bad way, meaning like when the pandemic happened, for about 150. So all said and done, I probably made another 100,000 on top of that. Maybe, yeah, about another 100,000. So the property made me about $200,000. That is not life-changing money, right? And especially over a decade, because if you work a job and the money that you make from working, a lot of people will make 100, 200,000 over 10 years. But it was a really great lesson about dealing with tenants, about understanding that if you have multiple units, so to speak, even though I didn't have units, I just had spaces, where I'm like, okay, as far as occupancy goes, if 2 or 3 tenants weren't there renting a space, I still had 80% or more that would cover my expenses. And so I never really had to come up with money to pay the mortgage each month, which is a good thing. And I was able to take money out at one point where I took the 70 grand, and these other folks that were renting a space, that needed the space, that wanted the space, paid my debt for me. So I had an appreciating asset. I learned that. And, I had a cash flow. So these are things that I didn't understand before, as far as the technical terms go, in the real estate investment world. Cash flow, occupancy, assets, appreciating assets, and debt, paying down the debt. So that was a really great lesson for me. I ran into some problems at that property versus if I take the few problems I had there, where I had anywhere from, because some guys rented 2 or 3 spaces at a time. I didn't have 15 tenants, but I had anywhere from 8 to 10 tenants ish, at a time. But I had a single family house as well, of the few properties that I own or have owned. And I had one tenant who didn't pay me for almost a year. And that mortgage was $1,900 a month. So I had to cover that $1,900 a month, plus the water bill, and in Massachusetts. So, that was different. Now, I only had one tenant that turned into a problem tenant, and my wife kind of knew in advance. She's a pretty good judge of character. She said, I don't think you should rent to these folks. I think it's going to be a problem. And she was right. I went against her opinion, and I made even against my own better judgment, because I thought, it'll be fine. And it turned into a problem. But this was during the pandemic, granted, and I couldn't evict her because there was just some things in place where I was just stuck letting her stay there. Granted, Raft was willing to give us some money back, but it was still a big hassle. So that was another lesson I learned about getting the right tenants in. Ultimately, you can't 100% know if someone's going to give you a problem, but there's probably some fail safes or some things that you can kind of like put in place, some processes and some guidelines where you say, okay, they're going to meet this criteria. Maybe it's credit, maybe it's job history, referrals, first last security. There's certain things that you can put in place that kind of can help you deter people that may not be the best tenants. And it's the same thing with hiring somebody for your company or that may work with you or for you. Some red flags can go up where you say this might be a problem. So anyway, that was a really good lesson for me. So as far as my takeaways from that first property, it taught me about the loan process, about generating money. And, I think I would do that same type of property multiple times if I could, because if I could make 500 to 1,000 net a month, and that same system, meaning like you have a property, somebody pays your debt. This is nothing new. and you have cash flow every month, and the asset is appreciating, some appreciate faster than others, then it's a good investment. It's something that is going to work out for you if you can manage it properly. But I think it's also good to have some money set aside for problems, for the rainy day, for issues, maintenance issues, like if the roof leaks, or if the water. I mean, we had a rainwater system, and there was a toilet, but there was no water tie-in. So I don't know how that whole thing worked, but the rainwater in this giant like container, I don't know how big, it was pretty huge, would flush. It would tie into the sewer, but there was no water coming in. Just I could run water to the sewer. So, but I never got into that. I think it would have cost about $10,000 to do it. But my neighbors were kind of a pain. I didn't want to open up a can of worms. But even that, permits, is it worth spending the extra money? Because I toyed with that for a while, and I'm like, nah, I don't need to. So, but you can also better the property. There's properties around me right now where I'm at, as I'm looking to either build. There's a piece of land in my neighborhood that I think I could potentially buy. That would be good to build a property. So as I analyze the deal and the numbers, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. What's it going to take, right? So and that's a different topic, which I'll on another day. Then there's other properties where I have somebody up the road. Maybe I'll take a picture. In the next video, I'll shoot it up in reference. The person bought this little tiny single family house, and I didn't look what he paid or what they had paid, but they have since added an addition on, and I'm curious. It's a huge addition. I thought they were just adding a 2-car garage, but it ended up being an addition with no garage. So I don't know if it's going to be an apartment that they rent out, because it looks like there's another entrance, or if it's all going to be one property. I am ambitious enough to go over there, knock on the door, and ask my neighbor, hey, what did you do? And tell me about your process, and how did you secure the money? Did you get a loan? Did you do a HELOC? That's something I'm looking at on one of the properties we have right now, where we could take not cash out, but a line of credit up to, this is a primary residence that has a couple units in it that we would basically are going to eventually rent out. But right now it's primary residence, and we could take actually with one of the banks up to 100%. This is with a Hanscom Federal Credit Union. And in some cases you can get up to 100%, minus what you owe, as a line of credit to do other investments. I have somebody else, another neighbor, who just built a 2-car garage with an overhead that I'm also curious about. So I have all this curiosity about different strategies, like building an ADU, building a garage that maybe I could rent out, building on a piece of land, adding an addition, buying another property. There is other properties like that where I don't have to do anything but strip it down, and then maybe add a $300,000-$400,000 addition, and the property would still be in a massive equity. It would still have a lot of equity in it, where I could, maybe take 70-80%, rent it out, because it would be worth more. The ARV would be worth more than what I have into it, between what I pay for the property and what I invest in it. It would still be worth. So if I bought a property that was $500,000 and I put $300,000 in it, so I'm into it for $800,000, not like cash, and it appraised at 1.2. I mean, these are some of the things I'm looking at. That's still a good position to be in, especially if I can find a tenant to pay that debt. But I would really like to get into properties that have more than one tenant. I think I would feel better having 2 or 3 or 4 tenants in a property. So, either a multiplex or, multifamily type of situation, or at least a duplex. Because then you kind of hedge if somebody doesn't pay, or if something goes sideways, like, well, at least I got that money coming in from that side, or from that floor, or whatever the case is. So that's my opinion. I'm at about 20 minutes. I hope that helps a little bit. I can get into more details on that, but that was my very first property over there in Court Street in New Bedford, Mass. And like I said, it was not like a cakewalk. It was lots of hurdles and obstacles. And how do I come up with the money? How do I buy my client out? How do I deal with these unruly tenants, neighbors that were complaining? Just, a lot of things there. But at the end, I made $200,000 accidentally, and I fulfilled a need that I had at the time for for cars, and a side hustle that I had. So, hope you guys have a great Wednesday, and I will see you next time.